Now, if you haven't already watched our Volleyball Heart Part 1 video, you're definitely going to want to if you want to learn how to create the Volleyball Heart itself. And then in this video, we're going to be taking a look at specifically converting this design into a rhinestone design. So now we'll take a look at actually creating a rhinestone design, and we're going to be kind of showing you two different concepts here. First, we're going to take our lines that we've created and just create a rhinestone design outlining the lines. And then we're going to take a look at the process that we would use to fill in all the different areas of our volleyball heart. So all I did was went back to the original where we had created the lines, made a duplicate of it here, and the first process is to go ahead and add stones to what are just our heart shape and the individual lines that we made. Let's go ahead and choose our stone size. We'll do 3.3, and we have our spacing set at 0.5 of a millimeter, and we'll go ahead and choose Add Stones, and that adds stones. Now we're going to get this kind of orange look here because I have some outline properties set. So we're going to turn off our outline properties, and then with nothing selected here in CorelDRAW, we're going to right click on that again, and so any future stones that we add to this will not have an outline property. Now I'm going to go to my wireframe mode here because I want to have you look at something. Right here at these intersections, you see we have like three stones, boom, boom, boom. Where the outline converges with the lines that we added, you can see right now there's a problem there. And there's a problem at every single intersection. Alright? And sometimes it's easy to fix that issue, sometimes not. But there's an easy way to do it here inside Easy Stone. So what we're going to do is we're going to select those and hit Clear Stones. And we're going to come over here to our Editing tab and use that intersect function. So now I can select all those lines and hit the intersect function. And we don't really visually see anything different, but Easy Stone did analyze this layout for us. And if you look what's happened here, when we drew this line right here, for example, that was one line, right? But now, when we click on that line segment, you can see that those two line segments are now separated where they intersect with this other line. So if I come in here and we go ahead and go back to our stone tab here, and go ahead and add stones again, now you can see what the result that we get. Now if I come in here where these two intersect, you can see that we don't have that issue with overlapping stones. We have an overlapping stone here, but that's just because of that sharp angle that's created. But at every other intersection, right here, if we come down here and look at this intersection, okay, now this intersection we didn't have a problem with because these lines all ended at that point. But where this line, oh, see, now there's a problem right there. That's what we were running into initially. So that's an issue that we'll take a look at. There's also an issue here, right, where that line is intersecting. But what about up here? That one's good. That one's good. So those are some of the things that I look at when I'm making these designs. There's one there. That intersection looks good. So what's the situation here? Why the problem here? Well, Easy Stone is only as good as its programmer, and apparently I'm not as good a programmer as I think. But what's really happening here is this calculation, believe it or not, to calculate that intersecting point right there is actually a very difficult mathematical problem because we have two curved objects and Easy Stone is trying to find where those two curved objects meet, and in this case it didn't do a great job. It usually does a pretty good job, but it's not always perfect, and this is a perfect example. But if we understand the tools in CorelDRAW and why things are happening the way they're happening, fixing it is very, very simple. Now we wouldn't want to do it for every single intersection in every single design we do. That's why we have that intersection button. But when it doesn't get it perfect, I'll show you how to fix it. So we're going to go to our shape tool and find out what's really happening here. So with this outline, if I click on that outline of my heart, what's really happening here? Do you see that line kind of turns like a dotted line? And I'm going to back out a little bit here, and what you're seeing here is where this line intersects our outline. This is one continuous piece. It didn't catch that intersection. And it may be when I drew the line, I didn't actually draw it to the edge. Remember I kept telling you, you make sure you're on the edge. And while visually it looks like it's on the edge, maybe it really wasn't. So all we need to do is select that line, double click on it near the intersection, and that will add a node. And then I can pick that node up and drag it just by clicking and dragging my mouse, and see it snaps to the end node of this intersecting line here. Now with that node selected, I can click on my editing tab and choose break it nodes. Okay, and that's all you have to do. That's the only thing you have to do there, and that will take care of it. And then we can come up here and we kind of do the same thing. So again, we grab our shape tool, double click on our line, because again this line segment goes from this point all the way down to this point. So where this intersected, it just didn't do a great job of finding the intersection. So we'll double click, click and drag, and then we'll choose the break at node function. Now with that done, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and select our entire design again, come back to our stone tab and choose the add stone function and see what those intersections look like now. So now you can see that's all been cleaned up, and this one over here, that's all been cleaned up. Problem solved, right? Or right here, problem solved. Okay, so that is how you take care of those intersections. Now let's go back to enhanced mode here, because I want to show you something. That now that we have all this set with that intersect function, I can scale this design as big or as small as I want. So right now, let's go back over to inches so we can see how big this is. Well, it says it's in inches, but it's showing it to me in millimeters. Well, that's okay. It's about 10 inches wide. So I'm going to say, you know what? Let's shrink this down to 4 inches. And I just go ahead and typed in 4 inches. And so now that heart is a lot smaller, right? So if I select that again, and again choose add stones, now you can see it just adjusted it for the 4-inch size. So I'm going to go ahead and select all those stones and move it over here. And let's say maybe now I want it to be 6 inches. So we'll go ahead and just type in 6 inches. And so now it's a little bit bigger, and I'll click on add stones again. And again, it recalculates the number of stones needed for a 6-inch heart. So the nice thing about this is we can utilize this function of scaling and automatically adjusting the different sizes. What if I want to create a really small little heart? I'm just going to make another duplicate, and let's say I want it to be 2.5 inches. So we'll just type in 2.5 inches. And then I'm going to change my stone size, and just for giggles here, let's change our stone color, and we'll choose the add stone function again. And now you can see we have a little tiny heart with our SS6 size stones. Okay, and you can see right here, the reason that there's no stone here is because EasyStone says this little line segment, it doesn't think a stone could fit there and maintain our spacing. So let's look at that in more detail so we understand that. So really what this is, that's one little tiny line segment. So it put a stone at the beginning and the end, but it says, hey, I can't really fit a stone in between there and maintain that 0.5 millimeter spacing. So that's why there's a little bit of a gap there. But if we were to take this and scale it just a pinch, we probably don't have to scale it much. And then if we click on add stones, now you can see, because we had the room, it went ahead and threw it in there. Okay, so those are just kind of little things for you to keep in mind. Now, we can go another step with this, and I think it's fun to show you some of the various tools here in CorelDRAW and how you can just really go crazy with them. And that is to take our design, we're going to group it together. And it has to be grouped together. So we've taken all these stones and we've grouped them together, and now we're going to manipulate this heart into a different shaped heart. So let me show you how this works. So we're going to come over here, and you have to find the right tool. Just come on down here, it'll probably look like this by default. See, that's our blend tool, our interactive blend tool, but we're going to click and choose our envelope tool. And with that envelope tool, up here there's all kinds of options. There's all kinds of different presets that you could choose. Like if you choose the push down preset, you can see it. You know, it doesn't look very good. You could choose the circular preset. Oh, that's interesting. So I mean, there's all kinds of different ones. You can choose the rectangular preset, the pinch preset. You know, you can try all kinds of different ones. Sometimes they're decent, sometimes not so much. This function here allows us is unconstrained mode. So what that allows us to do is allows us to do pretty much anything we want to do. And there's also some settings over here that we have: putty, horizontal, vertical, and really you just have to dive in and play with them, because depending on the original shape of the design, you know, you're going to have all kinds of different results. So just know that those functions are there. Play with them, get used to them, see what they do for you. There's also some options here where we have a double arc mode, and then we have single arc mode, and then we have this straight line mode. Again, see what those functions do for you with whatever design that we're working with. But in my case, I'm just going to go with unconstrained mode. That's the most simple setting, and then we're going to choose this putty. And watch what we're going to do here. Right here in the middle, when we add an envelope, you get a node, a control point at all four corners, and at the center all the way around all four sides. So I'm just going to come in here to my center node, and I'm going to pull it out. And when you're doing this initially, you want to do it in small increments, because it doesn't take much movement to make a big difference. So we're just going to pull it out a little bit, and you see how it kind of pulled that heart out a little bit? And then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to pull that out a little bit, and see? Already a little bit more interesting heart shape, right? And then we're going to take these three control points along the bottom just by clicking and dragging all three of those control points. So you can see all three of those are now highlighted, and I'm going to pinch. So let's pinch. Go straight up. We can hold our shift key down if we want to constrain, you know, to be perfectly up. Now remember, I said do it baby steps, because you don't really know how big a change we're going to make here. But you can see there, that looks pretty good. And we could, you know, move it up a little bit more, maybe. Right? And then if you want, we can try. And you can even add a node along the line here. And that's interesting, too, sometimes. So I could just double-click on a line. And I can actually add a node. And you can see what it does when I do that. Now, I don't actually want to do that, because I actually kind of like that look just like that. Okay? So it's just a little bit different look than if you were to look at this one. Okay? Just a little more, maybe a little bit more friendly, right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to select the entire design again, and we're going to right-click again and choose Ungroup. Okay. Now let's take a look at our design. So let's really zoom in here, and now you can see our circles are more like ovals. So they're not going to work very well when we go to cut our template. No fear. We can select our entire design because we did ungroup it. And all I have to do is click on Add Stones again. And it's just going to redo our lines. Now, when you're pinching and prodding and poking, it's going to look weird. This end result, when we add stones again, you're going to see it looks a little weird. But let me show you some tools here inside Easy Stones that's going to help us clean that up. So once we're satisfied that yes, this is the outline design that we want to make, I'm just going to duplicate it. Always duplicate it in baby steps. So once you get it to a certain point, if you're not real familiar with how these tools work, it's always best just to make a duplicate of it and go on to the next step. Okay? So for example, our next step is to break all of our stones. So we select our entire design, and we got to pull those stones off of our paths. So we're going to click Break Stones, and that takes care of that. We've now removed all of our stones. You know what? I actually want to try one other thing. Actually, you know what? I just thought of this. Let's do this. Let's make another duplicate. See, I'm always thinking too. So rather than modify the existing stones that we already had in place, my new theory is, what if we just make a duplicate of our heart again, and I'm going to clear out all of the existing stones. So let's just go ahead and hit clear stones. Right now, these stones are still attached to the path that we created. So we're going to clear those stones out. Now, we don't actually see anything, right? But that's okay, because we're going to right-click on our paths so we can bring those paths back up. Now, when we do that, you see what we have here. We have these dots, and I really don't know what we're looking at there. So let me go back to wireframe mode, and let's look at this. I really don't know why these, honestly, I don't know why these are created. Okay, but I do know that they don't belong there. So I'm just going to come in here, and I'm going to delete all of these at every corner here. It's something strange that happens when we use that weird envelope tool. Looks like I got a little crazy there, so let's go ahead and delete that. So we'll go ahead and just pick up all these corners, get rid of all those lines, because we definitely don't need those as part of our design. Those aren't even circles, they're just little remnants left over from our weird envelope trial there. Alright, so now we're back to square one again. So now I think we go back to enhanced mode here. Now I think all we have to do is just select those lines, and I'm actually going to give them just a hairline outline, okay, with our outline pen tool, so we can see that a little bit better. And now we're going to add stones again. So let's go ahead and choose that add stone function, and we're using we're using SS6 size stones, which that'll probably be okay. So let's go ahead and do that. And yes, you can see what a great result we have now, and that's going to be a lot easier than going in and editing all of those intersecting stones there. All right, so we can go ahead and delete that extra one. We don't need that. So now we have our volleyball heart, but you can see it's just a new, interesting shape that I thought would be fun to try, and a very different look than just our run-of-the-mill heart volleyball, but they both look great. And just like before, we can make this any size we want. So if I want a, let's do a 3-inch version, so I just type in 3 inches, scale it down to 3 inches, and then we'll go ahead and choose add stones again. That'll restone it for a 3-inch size there, and that might be a fun little rhinestone decal that we could do. So experiment with that. I think you're going to have a lot of fun creating and adjusting and modifying and using that envelope tool, because you can do a lot of pretty interesting things with that. And just as a side note, even earlier when we did our vinyl design, again, we're going to go ahead and group this together. All right, and we'll go back to that envelope tool, and we'll just make a small, fun little, okay, we're going to just bump that out a little bit, and we're going to bump that out a little bit, and we're going to select the bottom here, and we'll go ahead and shift up a little bit. And you can see we could do the exact same thing even with our vinyl design to get a different type of shape that's also fun too. So it's not strictly for rhinestone design. You have a lot of flexibility there in making those adjustments. So you just have to experiment and play with that a little bit and get used to those functions. Now let's talk about one more thing, and I'm not going to bore you because I know this is a very long video. I'm not going to bore you anymore, but there's one more thing that we do need to talk about. We've looked at how we can create our outlines, right? So it's pretty straightforward to create the outlines. But what about if we want to do a fill? Well, as it sits right now with this heart, we can't do a fill because there's no property for EasyStone or any rhinestone software to look at to determine what the fill should be, because all we have is outlines. Well, there's actually a great tool here inside CorelDRAW called the Smart Fill tool. Now, this isn't a very old tool. Maybe CorelDRAW 12 maybe it came out. I really don't remember which version, but it was just a few versions back. But what it allows us to do is it allows us to essentially color like a coloring book. So let's go ahead and just click on that that colored square there, and now you can see it actually filled in that area with a shape. Now I'm going to undo that for a moment because I do want to point something out to you. When we don't have, see, now I've got a hole in my bucket, right? So now when I come in with my Smart Fill tool and I click in that area, now you can see what area it's going to fill in because there's a hole there. So when we're creating our outlines, it's important that we do snap to the edge like we talked about previously, so that we have a container, a fully contained area, so that when I use that smart object or that smart fill, you can see it is able to fill it in. Now I'm going to give it no fill, and let's give it like a pink outline, and let's give it a fairly wide pink outline so we can really see it. We'll do like a 20 pixel wide, so there we go. We can see that a little bit better. So now what we're going to do is we're going to show you just a concept once you've done that for every section. So we just come in here and click, and you can see we can fill in each one of these sections with a color, and now we have a fill object that EasyStone can determine what stones can fit inside of there. But we're just going to work on this one little section here so we can show you. But basically all we're going to do is switch back over to our SS10 crystal size, and then over here on the stone fill tab, maybe I'll even pick a different color. We'll do pink, for example. We have this island fill function. If I click on this button, which is add stones, and I click island fill, then EasyStone's going to go ahead and do the necessary adjustments to fill in that area as best it can with Rhinestone. So we're going to go ahead and right click again to get rid of, and now you can see we do have some work to do inside of here because of, this happens with every single shape that we do. We just go ahead and manipulate these few stones. So we'll go ahead and select those stones, and we'll go back to our stone tab and choose break stones. And then we just have to come in here. We have a couple of overlapping stones that we should get rid of, first of all. And then, of course, we can either fill in these areas. Like if I have a stone here, I'm going to actually switch over to my SS6 size. That might be a solution. So we could choose the resize replace function and change the size of that stone. And then we could just pull that stone into this area. So then we could go pull this stone and make a duplicate and fill in there. And we'll go ahead and put a stone there. And then over here, if I'm not happy with exactly that gap there, what I can do here is I can push these stones away, creating a little bit of room. So then I can grab my SS6 size stone, and I can come over here and put them in between if I want to do that. Maybe do something like that. However I determine I want to fill that gap, I can nudge some stones around there and get this to fit in there just the way I want to. And there we have our area filled in with stones. So that is just to give you, and then we would do that same process for every section in our heart to go ahead and fill in our entire heart. So that's it from beginning to end. Hopefully you get some concepts down and you can try some of these different things. And thank you, Brenda, from Digital Cutters Plus for giving us the inspiration to create this video. And watch this video a few times, understand the concepts, and try some things out. Do a nice heat press shirt, try out the different rhinestone functions, and I think you'll find that there's a lot of things that you can learn to do, and a lot of different applications for the different things that we covered. Thanks for watching.